What's going on? I'm Crash Goat, and I am here again, and you are here again. Wherever you may be, but you're still here. You're out there somewhere, all scattered throughout the land and around the world, but you're still here with me, and I am here with you. I am broadcasting live from deep in the heart of Texas in the Goat Cave Control Station. That's where I am coming to you live from. Pretty much the greatest place in the world, pretty much, for riding a super bike at high speed. There really isn't too many other places you can really open them up like you can here. Now, we may not have all the twisty canyon roads or anything like that, but those places that have the twisty canyon roads, they don't have big, broad highways and stuff. The canyons are probably better, yeah, but you may not be able to do as much in those other areas as you can here, if you know what I mean. So anyway, I did ride today, and everything went fine. But the bike does have an issue right now. It's got the light coming on. It's popping codes, and then all of the systems on the bike are disabled. Even the quick shifter doesn't work. So I just have to rev match by blipping the throttle, and then it works like that. But I go to kick it, and then it doesn't shift. So I have to do the throttle cut myself. Then when I cycle the key, it clears it, and then when I ride it, it comes back again. I've got to look into it. I'm going to do that Saturday night. So night after tomorrow night, I'm going to look into it. I know I had some bare wires down by the gear shift indicator module that goes into the side of the transmission. There were 3 bare wires there. I don't know why they were bare. Maybe the oil from the chain lube or whatever just disintegrated the jacket on the wire. And those were just 3 bare wires that were just there. They could have come in contact with each other or whatever, maybe popped a fuse or something. They never did, I guess, but it was pretty wild. And so I wrapped them with tape. I really need to. What I have to do is I have to cut those 3 wires, and then I have to slip some, what do you call it, heat shrink onto the wires. And then I have to solder them back together, pull the heat shrink back down into place, and heat it up and have that become the new wire jacket. That's what I have to do to fix it. And I have not done that. I just wrapped it with electrical tape for now. But that I'm thinking it's possible that might not be working so well, and it could be causing the issue. But the codes are, and we'll go over that in a few minutes. I'll show you what the codes are, and then we'll look it up, and it'll say a communication error in between the ECU and the dashboard, which would mean it's not way down on the side of the motor where the gear shift indicator is, but it might pop a code saying it's a communication error somewhere else when it's really that. I mean, that's possible too. Because those systems are kind of connected. And what runs down there on the side is a couple of things. There's the gear shift indicator, and then there's also the quick shifter mechanism wiring, and then the kickstand. So you got the kickstand, the quick shifter, and the gear shift indicator are all down in that loom that runs down to the left side bottom of the motor, and all of that's bundled together. So it's maybe possible, because I have had some issues over there with that. So I need to look at that. But then I need to take off the tank and all the other stuff to get to where the ECU is, because the ECU is right up on the top of like where the gas tank is. The gas tank sits low. I mean, it looks like it's right there, like when you're riding the bike, and that's where you pour the gas in. It's got, the neck that goes down into the tank with the little filler cap there on the top. But the tank sits very low down underneath the seat and up into the tail, and to keep the center of gravity low on the bike. It doesn't sit up way high. That's just a That's the airbox and the ECU and the battery and all that stuff's up there on top. Not the gas tank itself. So I'm gonna have to look into that. I was thinking about canceling the live stream tonight to do it tonight because I don't like to wait on these things. But I was like, you know what? Everybody would be very disappointed if they don't get to see me. So I just couldn't do it to you guys. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't disappoint you like that because I know a large portion of your life and your day centers around seeing me on your screen. And, it's just, I just didn't feel like taking that glorious sight and experience away from you. So I'm here, even though I do have something that I need to get to. But you see, that's how much I care about all of you. And with that, I'm going to say hi to whomever is here so far. So let's see. We got Sidewalk Star. What's going on? Just live stream working on the damn bikes, man. No, because I would have to wear this down in the garage like while I'm doing it. And then my garage is kind of messy. It needs to be cleaned out and stuff, So, and then I would feel like people were watching me like while I was working and stuff, and maybe you'd be like checking me out, like my backside and stuff, and it's just, I'd feel like you were checking me out, and I don't want to be checked out when I'm trying to focus on fixing my bike, which is a very serious thing. And I don't need the antics of having you guys be, checking me out while I'm working. And it's not like you would even try. And even like if I did it in the beginning, y'all wouldn't even be thinking about that. But as soon as you saw me, you'd be like, you wouldn't be able to help yourself, And see, I already know that. And that even might make your life a little bit more difficult too, because, it's not going to go anywhere, and you might want it to go somewhere. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to go anywhere. And so, it's almost like a rug pull. It's like rug pulling somebody, like to build them up, and then just yank the rug out from underneath them and stuff. So why even go there? You know what I mean? It's just not a good idea. I don't want anybody checking me out while I'm working on my bike. It's kind of distracting, and that's definitely what would happen. So I just have to. Y'all just have to find something else to do while I'm doing it. That's how it is. So anyway, KJJ, what's going on? Miki Beanzo is here to agree with me. I didn't even read your comment, and I knew that's why you were here, bro. Lucas says, thanks, Mr. Goat. You are so noble beyond compare. I was going to say, well, I try, but I don't even have to try. I'm just naturally noble beyond compare. It's just one of those things. It's just a personality trait, that I was born with. It's not like I don't even have to try to be it, It just happens on its own. Liddell, what's going on? It's getting better day by day. Thanks, Lucas. Okay. What's getting better day by day? Someone else says, I haven't since Sunday. Pulled a muscle in my lower back. Oh no. Not really sure how, but the pain is intense. Been home mostly prone. I've been there. I know exactly how that feels, and it sucks. One time I pulled my back out so badly, I should say, that I couldn't get out of bed for 5 days. Seriously. I won't even give you the details on the logistics that were part of that, but it was bad. It was bad. And, I had just started my job. I was only there for like a week or 2 weeks or whatever it was, and then I had to call in for a week after I had just gotten hired. But they understood. They actually believed me. And I came back to work early. I went and saw a doctor about it and everything, and so that way I could bring him a note, this and that. But the doctor said he can't return to work until this date. But I ended up showing up like 3 days earlier than that, and that kind of impressed them. I think they didn't even know me, but they do now. They know me now. But yeah, Linnell, I know what it's like. Trust me, I do know. It sucks. Mike, what's up, Mike? What's up, Mike? Just saying hi to everybody. Just saying hi. Brad is here. What's up, Brad? You thought I wasn't going to say hi to you, but I did. BRG Diesel. What's up, dude? All right, man. Chef is here. Thank you for being here, Brother Goat. Sounds like time to upgrade. Sorry. Upgrade what? My bike? I would love to. I would love to, man. I just can't do it right now. I don't have the money, to do it. I have to get things squared away before I can do it. I have to get some things squared away. I have to pay off some debts and stuff like that in order to get my credit where it needs to be, you know? And then, when the time is right, I've got some time. I got, before the end of the year, I still got warranty on my bike until the end of the year. But, like I've got this issue right now, and that's a warranty issue for sure, especially after they worked on it, with the Desmo. I'm not saying they did anything wrong, but that's what, Google has said. If you've recently had some work done on the bike, check the connections or whatever. And that's when it popped up. So it could be a plug or something. Like, it was fine until they pulled it apart and then put it back together. It might have got it dislodged or something. Sometimes that stuff happens. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in these very complicated machines. So, but like I said, I have warranty for it, and I told them about it already, and that was 2 or 3 weeks ago. And he goes, yeah, you can bring it in, but I really don't know when I'll be able to get to it because I'm stacked. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, I'll just wait, because I can still ride it and stuff. So I'll just wait. It'd be nice to have another bike, in the meantime, but I don't. So that's just the way it goes. Z is here. What's up, man? Sour Star says CF Moto 675 equals S tier bike. What's S tier? What the fuck's S tier, Sidewalk Star? Don't be using code language on me that I don't understand. All right, you have to, if you're gonna mention it or something, be sure and use terminology that I know. Okay, don't be using code words and things that I'm not aware of. All right, can't be doing that. Mike says, do you think it's serious enough to unhook the battery? I'd hate to see it go up in flames in the garage. No. There's no. I don't think there's any. I didn't even think of that, honestly, because I don't think that there's any issue with that. It's a communication error is what it is, according to the codes, which means there's connection. And then I notice when I really get on it, on the bike, and I start moving it around or going over bumps, intensely, at high speed, that's when it triggers it. And then I see the lights come on the dash, the warning lights or the code lights pop up. And then all my rider aid systems are no longer functioning, not even my quick shifter. So my traction control and wheelie control and all that, anti-lock brakes, probably, I don't think anything works on it. The quick shifter, none of that. It disables all of it until you cycle the key, and then it's good again, which indicates there's just some kind of a loose connection somewhere is what it is, if I'm to guess. And I'm not a Ducati technician by any means, but I do know a little bit about how these things work. Because I just know how these things work because of what I've done in my life. But basically, I don't have the testing equipment. But what I can do is I can pull it apart, and then I can look. And if it's saying it's a communication error between the ECU and the instrument cluster, which is the dashboard. I know they didn't take the dashboard off. They didn't do that, but they did take the ECU out in order to get the airbox out and the throttle bodies and everything so you can get to the top of the motor. You got to take all that stuff out. And that's likely when something happened. And there may be, and one of the wires may be broken inside the jacket to where it's contacting. But then whenever you get out and move and go over the bumps, it can break contact just enough so it can work most of the time. But then when things start to get, intense out there, then it just for a millisecond breaks contact, and then boom, your lights come on. That's communication error, as I understand it. So Moreno Cholo, what's up, dude? What a coincidence to ride both bikes in the rain. Never a dull moment for the goat. You're telling me, man. What's up, Hamberlin? What's up, dude? Goat, we're here, bro. Yeah, right on, man. I'm glad you're here. I'm here. We're here together, man. It's probably a loose plug or connector, says Moreno Cholo. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. And Z says loose connection. That is a very dangerous issue, having all the rider aids to fail. Well, is it though? Obvious. Look, for the past couple of weeks or whatever, I've been going out, ripping on the bike, out in the country. I was doing high-speed route runs. I was doing highway flow type shit. And the lights come on, and I'm taking turns at high speeds and everything. I've ridden in the rain at decent speed in the rain. I, as a rider, ride in such a way to where I am the rider aid. You know what I mean? I don't need rider aids in order to do all the things that I'm doing. I just leave them on as a backup in case something gets squirrely or some shit, like say for example, you're cranked over in a turn and you're whipping around and you're giving it throttle, but then there's like a little oil spot in the road or something, and then the bike can detect that maybe faster than I could. I'm not saying that it would. I'm just saying it might. Say it got past me, because I know that when the tires start to lose traction, I can feel when they're slightly drifting. I can feel as soon as they lose traction, I know what that feels like, and I adjust. It's like a reaction. It's not even something I have to think about. When I feel things lose traction, I sit the bike up and I close the throttle, just like before it even has time to process in the brain. It's just a you feel it and you just react, and it's just like a natural thing that occurs whenever you understand that, whenever you felt that many times. And again, riding in the dirt is what gives you that foundation understanding of what that is. Then when you come out on the street where you don't want to lose traction at all ever, but if you do, you feel it. So I know what to do in that situation. But just by example, just as a possible thing, it's good to have, like I referred to. I'm the only one I think that's ever referred to it like this. Is like the rider aids are your guardian angel, an actual real life guardian angel, to help you in case you're sleeping on the job or some shit. You know what I mean? If something gets past me, I want it there. But do I need it in order to get out and rip and do all the things? No, because as I'm doing all of those things, very little intervening by any of the rider aids is taking place. Like, for example, when I was riding in the rain, I didn't have any wheel slip at all. I wasn't. Did y'all watch the Motostars video recently where the guy's riding in the rain and it's just a cockpit view of him riding? So the camera's just him and he's riding like a ZX6 or something, and he wails on the gas in the rain, on asphalt, of course. And the back comes out and boom, he's on the ground. He just goes and it whips out from under him. Completely avoidable. So how did it happen? Because that rider, I'm assuming, does not understand what that feels like. And because you can make the rear tire spin and not crash, right? But he spun the rear tire and he crashed. It just went whoop right out from underneath him because he wailed on it, and then it became too much, and by the time he was closing it, he was already crashing. So he did something that he did not know that he couldn't do, And then once he realized it was happening, by the time he figured out what to do, it was already too far gone to save for him. See, if you understand what that feels like, and how to position your bike if you do get wheel spin, and if it starts to step out on you, you got to sense that immediately, just like the rider aid, just like the computer would sense it that quickly. You as a rider need to be able to react that fast as your rider aid. But see, I have that. I do that. So my rider aids never intervene. Now, once in a while, if you look at the dash, you can see the little lights lighting up here and there, but it's so minimal that it's not, when you see it light up on the dash, it's not because it's saving me. It's just because it's detecting slight variances in wheel speed due to going over the bumps. It's usually the bumps is what does it. Whenever I'm going like leaned over and going around a turn, that's what I'm talking about, like in turns. It doesn't matter when you're straight up and down. Like if you don't have any lean angle, it's really not relevant at all, right? Because really the rider aids are there to save you when you have lean in, because if you lose traction when you're leaning, what's holding you up when you're leaning? It's the grip of your tires. And if one or both of the tires lose grip, all of that lateral force that your tires are, like, say this is your tire right here on the ground, and your tires are like digging in, but there's a lot of lateral force as you're going around a turn. That's just the nature of it. And if you're leaned over and your tires slip out and break free, you can see how my arm is. Like if I'm pushing down, but I've got grip right here. But if that grip lets go, all of this lateral force just pushes you out. And if you don't understand what it feels like when it starts to let go, you're not going to be able to save it. And that's where rider aids come in for people that don't understand that so well. And that isn't even a for sure bet that they're going to save you, because it could go so far that it could be beyond saving. I mean, if you're a shitty rider, right, or if you just put yourself like in a really bad situation, you can put yourself in a situation so far gone from being saved that your rider aids ain't going to save you. Your rider aids are there if you're a good skilled rider, and then you just get a little bit too far out, and then all of a sudden it starts to let go, but you're not beyond saving because you didn't put your bike in such a way to where it's beyond saving. Because not to do that, because you're a highly skilled rider with a lot of experience, which is the only person that should be doing that type of riding anyway. But there's a lot of people that go out there and do it, and then they all crash. That's why they crash. Because they're doing too much with not enough experience. They don't understand, what's going on underneath them with the bike. The dynamics of it all, the physics, the dynamics, and just how the bike is interacting, with the ground. And I mean, there's just a lot. And you as the rider have to be able to, just like when you're walking or you're doing something, you're kind of like doing some drills or something like on your feet, you're exercising, and you've got your feet on the ground. And you got your sports shoes on of some kind, right? Your tennis shoes, Vans, or some kind of Nikes, or whatever it is that you wear, right, for exercising. That gives you good feel on the ground. They're good for running and moving and playing sports or whatever it is that you do, right? But for this analogy that I'm giving you, this example, what's relevant is that your legs are your vehicle. Right? It's your personal vehicle that you were born with through human genetics. This is our human body type. So the legs that we stand on, propel ourselves with, and move in different directions, your feet are your tire contact patch, basically, and through the bottom of your feet, your toes, and your ankles, and your lower legs, your calves, and then your knees. All of that, you're detecting what's going on the ground underneath you. And if your foot kind of slips a little bit, like in the grass or like on the floor or whatever it is, you can detect that right away because you were born with those feet, right? And you should be able to detect a slip when it starts to happen and correct yourself so you don't fall down, right? It's exactly the same thing with a motorcycle, except for it's no longer just your feet. It's your body sitting on something, and the motorcycle is now an extension of your body. And I know it's a cliche thing, and people say, "Oh yeah, motorcycle is just I'm one with my bike. I'm an extension," like. But it really is. If you know how to read the road through your bike by what your bike is telling you from how it behaves in any given situation, then you're going to be able to control that machine. You're going to have control over it. Just like if you can, like with your feet on the ground and you're moving around, playing ball, hoop, whatever, you're going to be able to move around like really good. And some people are better at it than others, of course, but the more you practice at playing ball of whatever it is you play, the better, ideally, the better you get, right? Well, the same thing with riding motorcycles. The more experience you have, the more seat time you have, and the earlier you start. So you're starting much earlier, which gives you a lot more years. So say you got two people that are 30 years old. One person starts when they're 20, but the other person started when they were 10. Well, that person who started riding when they were 10 years old has 20 years riding experience if they ride all the time, right? And the other person only has 10. You see, that's that's double the experience time. But it's more than that, because when you start early, and I've said this before, your neural pathways haven't even fully developed yet. The younger you are, say like you're 8 years old or whatever, your brain is still growing. Your head isn't even full size. You're not a grown adult, which means your brain is still enlarging and growing with your body. And if you are developing neural connections from your body, like your lower extremities, like from your feet and your arms and everything up to your brain, that's how you become very coordinated in this reality that we live in. That's why, like kids or animals, they play and wrestle and do all that stuff. That's body neural pathway connection training is what that is. And if you get on a motorcycle while that process is still developing, well, you're going to be more like the motorcycle, and its tires on the ground are going to be real true extensions of your body, because your brain was formed with wheels, not and a motor or whatever, and not just feet and legs. You see, your brain now fully is developed with wheels as part of your body. You see what I'm saying? And typically, if you, and not just typically, 100%, at least in the past, that's all dirt riding, because you don't have a driver's license, right? You're not allowed to ride on the street. Now, you might get out on some concrete or a sidewalk or a parking lot, or if you're like me, you just ride on the street anyway, right? Get the cops to chase you even when you're a kid. I had the cops chasing me when I was 14 years old. And earlier than that. I didn't just get a YouTube channel and all of a sudden going out and messing. No, I've been doing it for a freaking lifetime, just like riding from an early age. So when you have that kind of, and before motorcycles, it was bicycles. And the bicycle was an extension. So the only difference is now it's got a motor, right? Now you don't have to pedal it, but the dynamics are basically the same thing. It's two-wheeled physics. And the earlier you start, and the more time, I lived on my bicycle as a kid. I did not sit indoors. I was always out, and I was fucking awesome on my bike, on my BMX bike. I could do whatever I wanted on it. I did a lot of tricks at the time, and ramps, and I could bunny hop trash cans. I mean, I could do that. Was the thing back then, and I was deep into it. So that's my history. And then, of course, the next progression was to get in a motorcycle. So anyway, all of that is how you understand the language of the machine that's underneath you. And if you have that, then what's a rider aid? and all the motorcycles I had, there was no rider aids. There didn't even have fuel injection. There was no ABS. There was no traction control. There was no slide control. There was no electronic suspension. There was no fuel injection. There wasn't any. There was no wheelie control. There wasn't anything. You had, like this bike right here. You had an engine, a frame, wheels, and a seat. Right, basically, and cables from the throttle, a push-pull cable system that went down to 4 carburetors that fed the air and the fuel into 4 cylinders, and then you had a transmission, and then a chain and sprockets that drove the rear wheel, and that's what you got. And you had an electronic ignition for the timing and the spark advance and all that shit, but that's it. There wasn't anything, and we were. On this bike right here, I was running the 610 loop back in the early 90s. I bought this brand new in 1992 and rode it off the showroom floor. And I felt like I can't even describe to you being that young and having such a badass bike as that. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. And then I used to go out, and all the time we were running around. I was out every single night, almost, and we would go out on Sundays and go out to the country like we're doing now. I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and I never had rider aids. Rider aids are new to me, So, but like I said the other night, there's 2 camps. There's the old school people like me that have big egos or whatever, and they're just like, I don't need no frickin' computer telling me what to do. There's that, and that's fine. That's totally cool. I mean, but this isn't a game, right? This isn't a fucking game, and nobody should have an ego. You shouldn't have an ego at all when it comes to this. You should be very technical and logical and wise and disciplined and open-minded. You should have all of those things. And if you have something that can back you up, why not have it there? Because what if something goes wrong? And that could save you, right? But if my systems, whenever I go out and those lights come on, those systems are disabled. Even my quick shifter doesn't work. So all systems disabled. But I'm out there, and I haven't, honestly, except for I got to blip my throttle to make it shift. I haven't noticed any difference in what the signals that the bike are sending up to me. Like, oh shit, it's starting to drift a little bit, or the wheels are locking up when I brake it now, when I apply the brakes now, or the front wheel's trying to come up when normally it doesn't. I'm not feeling anything different at all. Why is that? The reason is because I'm riding in such a way this entire time where I'm not having those systems intervene into my ride, because I'm smooth. That's why, because I'm fucking smooth. If you want to really be good, you got to be smooth. Everybody knows that. Smooth is fast. Smooth is efficient. And it's the efficiency that really is what gives you the speed. Efficiency is what results. The result of efficiency is speed. What is the opposite of efficiency? Waste, right? Waste. And what is waste when it comes to riding? It means going too wide in a turn, or killing your speed somehow because your line wasn't right, and so you got to close the throttle. Whereas if your arc was perfect, you could just be smooth through the whole thing and not have to close or open the throttle back and forth. Herky jerky, not choosing your lines properly. That, and smooth into the brake and smooth off the brake onto throttle. And then out of your turn, all of these things are efficient. And if you're not doing those things just right, that's why people can get faster over time whenever they become familiar with their machine and the routes that they're running on. And they dial in their machine more and all that stuff. You're creating efficiency is what you're doing. You know the road or the track, whatever it may be, and then you know your bike. And what does it mean to know your bike? It means to understand what it's telling you, to know it in such a way to where you know what it can handle and what it doesn't like in certain situations. You know what to expect. That's the key. Predictability. See, I talk about prediction game and all this other stuff when referring to traffic and picking lines and knowing how to not die by negotiating traffic. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about knowing your machine. You what it's going to do in different situations is predictable. And when I was riding the ZX10, whenever I went on the first ride to where I was actually riding it somewhat spiritedly, I didn't just immediately push it to the limit, because I don't know where the limit is on that bike. I don't know how it's going to behave compared to what I'm used to. And over the same areas, so I go down the same route that I was very familiar with. I know what to expect with my machine, but whenever you switch in a different machine, you can't just expect it to be 100% predictable as if you were riding the machine that you've done it 1,000 times on. So on your machine, you've done it 1,000 times. You know what to expect, right? There isn't going to be any anomalies that you haven't experienced at that point because you are very familiar with it. But then when you introduce yourself to a new bike that you've never ridden before and you try to go do the same thing, it makes no sense to jump right into it at the same level. Could you do it and just hope for the best? Absolutely. Is that wise to do? Absolutely not. So what do? You get to know the machine. So you're not going to be really efficient on it. And in the short time that I had that bike, I never really pushed it to its limit. I was getting up there on it where I was feeling comfortable pushing it to that level. Did the bike have more in it than what I was wringing out of it with my short time with it? Absolutely, it's got more in it. I could have gone down the route the next time. Like if I was to get on the bike now, like say Rob gave it back to me, and now I'm going to go do the exact same thing that I did in that video, the first ride and review. I could go faster. I would feel comfortable going faster than I did on that first time down, which wasn't bad, you have to admit. I mean, hitting 172 miles per hour in a turn on a first ride is not bad. And that's, you know what, that says a lot. I mean, of course, it says a lot about me, of course, right? It says I'm a bad motherfucker. But that's not, I'm just kidding. That's not really what it says. It really says that the bike is that good. That because I felt confident enough in the bike to go that fast in an area that I'm very familiar with. But see, that's another part of it, because I know what's in that road. I know what to expect from the road. Now, you would never, I would never, and nor should you ever, push a bike to the limit too fast, whatever that is, on an unfamiliar road. So, but it is a factor in how I was able to push the bike to that level on a first ride out on it. And that wasn't when I hit 172 miles per hour in that turn. That was like the last turn on that route. I went up it and then I came back down it. So I hit all of those turns going one direction, and then I turned around and I went back down the same route going the other way. And both sides of the highway, whether you're going up or back, it has its own quirks. It's not the same, even though they're the same turns. They're right next to each other, but it feels very different from one side to the other, one direction to the other. But instead of just highway loop turns and going around cars, that's what I had on that bike until I got out to the route. And then once I was out there, then I'm familiar with this. I know what to expect as far as the road goes. As long as there's not too much traffic, let's go for it. And that's that. And then went up and got familiar with the bike. I felt it in different scenarios because each one of those turns has its own personality with bumps and different. You know, the road surface is different. And then when I was coming back, it's different again, completely different again on the other side. But that was like, say, 7 turns each direction, and by the time I was hitting 172 miles per hour in the final turn, that was like the 14th turn I took on the bike at high speed. So I was pretty familiar with it at that time. And if you do have a lot of riding experience, you can become familiar quicker. And here's why: because you understand how the suspension is supposed to work. You should, right? I have a pretty decent amount of experience messing with suspension. I don't claim to be like a suspension god or anything like that, but I have a lot of experience riding the bikes and then adjusting the suspension. I know if it's doing something, I know what adjustment it needs in order to make it better, typically. So when I was riding that bike, it felt really good. Like I didn't really need to do anything to it. I just checked the tire pressure, put the pressure where I thought it should be. I added 1 turn of preload on the rear shock. And then, I don't know if you remember, but coming back, it got squirrely. See, that was one of those things that I'm talking about. It didn't get loose in the front at all on those 7 turns up the route. But whenever I came back and I hit that first turn and I was coming out of that first turn, I wasn't even going as fast as some of the other turns, and it started to go, it got squirrely on me. That's what I'm talking about, because I did not even expect it to do that, because it didn't do that on any of the turns going up the route. And then all of a sudden, boom. See, that's what I'm talking about. You don't want to be... Imagine if I was doing 180 in that turn and it started getting squirrely. I mean, you don't know like how it's going to behave because it's a new bike to you. But if you're a good rider and all that stuff, well, first of all, if you're a really good experienced rider, you wouldn't do anything different than what I did, because of that very thing could pop up. And then I was like, oh, shit, and then I found out it was only from its, like, off. It was only like 2 clicks in from being off. And so I didn't even know which way it was to tighten it or to loosen it, and I had to figure that out while I'm going down the route. And then I turned it, and then I was like, oh, shit, now I can't turn it off, so I got to back it off. And I'm doing that on 150 miles an hour going down the road. But I dialed it, and then once, and then I took some turns. It fell a little stiff, and I backed it off again, and then boom, it was good. So that's getting to know the machine, and being able to read what it's doing underneath you. That's vital. You can't get on a brand new bike and just just wail on it to 100%. You got to get, because an anomaly could pop up that you're unaware. It might have some kind of quirk that you don't know, and you don't want to be caught with your pants down at 180 miles per hour in a turn, and all of a sudden it's a surprise. It's a speed wobble. It's like, no, thank you. So anyway, who just super chatted me? Pitchfork Peasant, $4.99 super chat. Thanks for getting me on the board, man. Murky Boy 58 has a question. Go new rider and new viewer. Okay, Murky Boy. So you're a new rider and you're thinking about the R7, GSX 8R, and the ZX4RR. Out of those, I think the ZX4RR is the coolest one. That's the one that would have my most attention. And why is that? Because it's a 4-cylinder. That's what makes it cool, along with other stuff. The ZX4, out of those, I'm not interested in an R7. And I wouldn't be interested in the GSX 8R, even though those are both okay bikes or whatever. They have parallel twins, and the ZX4RR has an inline 4. It's like a mini inline 4. It's a 400cc inline 4, which is awesome. Now, if you're an experienced rider, I would not recommend that bike. It's not going to be fast enough for you, right? But whenever you're a new rider, the last thing you want is too much speed. And the reason is because you are going to fuck up. You are going to put yourself in a position, in an oh shit moment. You're going to find yourself in an oh shit position. And what would you rather have? Some time to react and fix it, or no time to react and fix it. So if you're a new rider, you're going to mess up. You're gonna be put into a situation where you have hardly any time at all to fix it. And if you are going too fast, you're screwed. You're gonna crash. You have no chance. You're not gonna. There's gonna be a situation where you're gonna crash. That's just the way it is. And I'm not wishing that upon anybody. I'm not predicting that for you specifically. I'm just saying in general, when you're new, and the reason why is because experience offsets risk. And in the beginning, you've got a whole bunch of risk because you have no experience to offset it. Can never fully eliminate risk, but the more experience you have, the risk goes way down, as long as you're not just a complete moron, right? Just a complete douche, or whatever you want to call it, because you'll have discipline and wisdom and experience that comes from experience. You'll have knowledge of what not to do, and what to do to save yourself in pop-up emergency situations. Have y'all ever seen like those police training videos or military training videos where they have like a ghost town set up or whatever, and they're supposed to go through, and then they have to do like pop-up targets where you have to be able to, as soon as they pop up, you have to tell if it's a bad guy or if it's an innocent civilian. And if they shoot an innocent civilian, then they fail the test, right? Well, riding motorcycles, when you're new, and even when you have experience, if you're out on the roads, it's like a pop-up test, like that. Imagine you've got your gun in your hand, and you're going through that test, and the targets are popping up. And all of a sudden, it's like a woman, holding a baby or something. You go, and you get spooked. You go, bang, and you kill, and you shoot that target. Well, when you're inexperienced, you make mistakes like that. And it's the same thing on riding motorcycles. You're going to think something's going to pop up like that quick, and it's going to spook you. And then are you going to have any time to react? The more reaction time you have. See, like in those pop-up shooting tests like that with a pop-up target, you're supposed to be like really fast, right? Because that thing might be a bad guy popping up around a corner to shoot you, right? That's why you got to be quick. But you have to be able to decipher what it is that you're looking at, like in milliseconds. And it's the same thing with motorcycles. You have to be able to understand what's happening and how to get out of it. And the more speed you have, the less reaction time you have in order to even figure out. And when you're new, the only option you have is braking, right? Most people, just generally speaking, there's always going to be some people that are better than others and can just naturally understand what to do. But 99% of the people are going to just, if they see an emergency, just brake. And that's why there's so many cases of panic braking crashes. You see, like in the Motostars videos, you see it all the time, where they just grab brake and boop, they go down, or endo and flip over, or whatever. Because that's the only thing that they have. And how many videos have we seen where we've seen a car pull out and the motorcycle just goes right into it, just like it was trying, like they didn't even try to turn or do anything else. We see it all the time. So what goes wrong in that situation? Why do the people, when a car pulls out in front of them, why do they run into the car? Why does that even happen? It's completely avoidable. Even if a car pulls out on you, 100%, no bullshit. It's completely avoidable. And the reason is this. An experienced rider sees that car there and doesn't trust it, right? An experienced rider doesn't trust any car, ever. And if that car looks like it's about to pull out, you know what the experienced rider does? It closes the throttle. And then what does that do? It slows you down. It takes speed away, which is the whole point for a new rider. This is so vital. If you're going too fast, even an experienced rider going too fast, that's going to take away any options. But the experienced rider, even if they're on a fast bike, has learned from it, having lots of seat time and having been in those situations. Even if they're on a 1000, they know not to use the power of the 1000 right now because a car might pull out where I'm riding. But an inexperienced rider is just gung-ho, and they don't know that they suck as bad as they do in terms of an emergency situation and being able to manipulate the bike at a high level, something they don't even know that they're supposed to know. How can they do it if they don't even know that that's a thing? They can't. That comes from experience. So you can avoid a car pulling out by predicting it before it even happens, because you don't trust the cars. And if you don't trust it, you close the throttle, you're watching it, and then if it pulls out, you're like, there it is. See, I knew it. That freaking son of a bitch, they did it. I knew it. But no worries. I'm not even upset because I never got spooked by it because I knew it was going to happen. That's how you do it. But an inexperienced rider is just going to be like, in the worst areas. And then when that car pulls out, they're like, ah! And then they brake or they crash from locking up the wheels. And they crash before they even hit the car and slide into it. Or they just go and brake and ride right into it because they can't stop fast enough. Because the only option that they thought they had was just brakes. And an experienced rider, if they do find themselves in a precarious situation like that, they can see pathways where you curve and you go around it as opposed to just braking. So the more experience you have, the better rider you're going to be, which is the point that I'm trying to make. And in the beginning, you don't want a fast bike because you're going to get used to it. You're going to learn how to ride it in the parking lot, and then you're going to get used to it. You're going to think, I got this shit. This is so easy. Watch me go. And then you get out on the road, and then all of a sudden the emergencies pop up that you never even knew were possible. Because you don't have the right mindset. You don't have the discipline. And And because you think you got it, and you left the parking lot, you're no longer doing parking lot drills. You're like riding out on the road, and you're like, you're starting to get comfortable, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you're going to be going as fast as you possibly can on that thing. So if you get a 400, which is still a fast bike by any stretch, it's not as fast as the 600, which are super fast. And then the 1000s and leader bikes and stuff like that are hyper fast. Not for beginners. But, you know, I don't want to beat a horse to death here. A dead horse. Beat a dead horse. Whatever it is. And we've had this discussion quite a bit, because a lot of times people will come in here with the same question. And it's always going to be the same answer. Start out slow. Take your time. Get a bike that is going to make you go slow, because you're going to get used to it, and you're going to get corrupted by the speed ability, and you need something to rein yourself in, because you're not going to be able to control yourself. And when people say, "Oh, just get the 600 because you're going to get bored of that bike so quickly," that's a person that doesn't care about you very much. That's a person who isn't, it's not their ass in the seat that's going to get wrecked or killed. They're just do that. That's somebody who doesn't know shit, in my opinion, or doesn't care about you very much. Now, I mean no disrespect to people that have told that to other people, but I'm here to tell you that's an improper thing to do. So now you should never do that again. There. Did I answer the question? Robert Morrison. I still have fun on a Grom. Dude, absolutely. You know what you learn? It's not always about the speed. It really isn't. It's not. It's about the experience, right? It really is. It really is about the experience. It just depends on what your riding environment is and what your style is. Of course, what your experience level is, what your budget is, just what your style is, all of these different things. But, small bikes are a load of fun. I had a Yamaha XT 125 whenever I was a kid, and I loved that thing. Here, I'll pull it up. I've showed you guys before, but for those of you maybe that, I think it was a 1985 Yamaha XT 125. Yes, this right here that I'm about to show you. Just let me get it in frame. Here we go. This bike right here. This was my first street bike. And it looked exactly like this. Mine was in just as good, mine was new like this, in perfect condition like this. It was red, same color scheme and everything, and I loved it. Look at that swing arm. That's a badass swing arm, isn't it? It's almost like a sport bike swing arm, right? See how it's got the bracing up here? It's a single cylinder 125 enduro dual purpose. And you can take it off-road. And you see these tires? I had these tires on it, but I used to lean this bike way over because I always wanted to just ride super sport bikes. But I had a load of fun on this thing. It didn't ever fail. It didn't ever require any maintenance or anything. Just change the oil and stuff. Keep the air filter clean. And it rode perfectly. It was smooth and it was fun. Oh my God. I would love to have one of these right now. Just to have it, just for fun. It doesn't even have disc brakes. It just had drum brake in the front and the rear. 1985 Yamaha XT 125. This is my first street bike. And I never really took this on the dirt at all. Once I was able to be out on the street, I just wanted to be on the street. And I love that thing. And I had so much fun on it. It was great. It was absolutely great. So you can do things with this bike that you can't do with a street bike. You know, you can go down trails and stuff and through fields and things like that. That run up and down bayous and cross streams and stuff like that. See how it's got like the little rock guard down here on the bottom and everything. It's just a beautiful machine. So much fun to ride. So when people talk about and that's another thing, people talk about getting a first bike. My first bike was a 100 piece of shit, right? It was a bike that looked kind of similar to this one, but it was a 100 and it was beat to hell. It barely ran, but it was my first motorcycle, and I didn't ride it on the street. It was only dirt. It started out as this, but the person who had it before me just beat it to hell, right? It was no longer able to. It had no lights on it or anything. They broke them all off. They abused the hell out of it. But I paid $100 for it when I was 14 years old. $100, and then it was mine, and I was able to have my first motorcycle. So my first motorcycle was a piece of shit that hardly ran. I had to push it home quite a bit because it just quit. It wouldn't start half the time. But I didn't care. I had persistence and motivation to just deal with it because it was just the coolest thing, because I didn't have to pedal anymore. And, it was all I could think about. I couldn't think about anything else except for riding that bike. And then not long after that, I got a much more powerful bike as a second bike. It was a Honda CR250 Supercross racing bike that I had as my second bike. And I was still 14 at the time. And it was so tall that I had to pull up next to a curb just because I wasn't fully grown yet. And just to be able to get on it, I had to stop by a curb because it was taller than me. But that's what I wanted. That's what I had. I terrorized my neighborhood with it and got chased by the cops on both of those bikes, actually. Yeah. Because, people would call the cops and stuff, and they would try to come and stop me or whatever, tell me to go home and this and that. And sometimes I would just take off, and then they would try to chase me and stuff, but I would get away. I got away every time. Every time, pretty much. But talk about a first bike, what's wrong with this? Well, I mean, this is an excellent first bike right here. This is, if you really want a first bike, this is really what you should get. This is perfect first bike material. It doesn't cost hardly anything. It's so efficient. It doesn't use a lot of gas. The parts are cheap for it, and if you drop it, there's no fairing or anything like that. This is designed to be kind of laid over and dropped. And if you scratch it or whatever, you're not out that much. And then you can go in the dirt and stuff too. And that's where you really get good as far as learning the language of a motorcycle, on the dynamics of what's going on underneath you. That's how you really get good, folks. That's what I recommend. But who the hell am I? What the hell do I know? I don't know much. Do whatever you want, but if you ask me, that's where I would start. I wouldn't even start with a Ninja 400. The Ninja 400 is cooler than this bike is, of course. Here, let me pull up a picture of it. 2026 Ninja 400 RR. Okay, it's super cool. There's no doubt about it. And I can see why anybody would want this thing, because it's absolutely beautiful. That thing is just gorgeous, right? That green color. I love this. I love this color scheme. Look at that Ninja down there. The perfect classic Ninja riding. It's got this blue with this white stripe, this beautiful blue color with this white, this Arctic white stripe here. And then this is the beautiful lime green, the traditional beautiful lime green, and the wheels are black. They're multi-spoke wheels. It's got a really high tail. It's got all of the cool features, It's got, look, the twin spar aluminum frame. It's got the light subframe on it. This, I don't know if that's a steel. That looks like a steel swing arm, but okay. You know, it's an entry level super sport. That's fine. This is not a deal breaker. Aluminum is better, but it looks like stamped steel to me. But I don't care. It's gorgeous. I would absolutely love to have one of these sitting in my garage. Even right now, as an experienced rider, I would love to have one. When I look at this, it just captivates me when I look at it. This is beautiful. It's stunning. I love the way the tank looks up here and everything. It's gorgeous. That is a killer machine. And I'm so proud of Kawasaki for making it. And it's a 4-cylinder. It's an it's like a baby ZX6 is what it is. It's a baby, but to me it kind of looks better than the ZX6 does. It looks more racy to me. Like look at the way the like the gap here and the way that the lines flow, like this little vent down here and everything. This is really tucked in here and the front fender looks really nice. I don't know, man. It kind of looks better. Like, I like this tail, the way it sticks way up like this. I don't know. It looks thin and light. I really like this a lot. I would love to have one of these just sitting in my garage. But for me to ride whenever I want. And it has ABS too. So this is the ABS version. They make different color schemes, but you know, this is the one. It looks like they make a black one here too. That's cool too, but I like the green. On this bike, I would definitely want the green. And it looks like they make a white one here too. White with red. There it is. Ninja ZX4 RR 2026. But the green, this green one, oh yeah, this is the one. This is beautiful. This, you know, the traditional Kawasaki lime green. It's stunning. I love it. And here's another picture. It's kind of, look, maybe the same picture. Different angle. Here's leaned over. Looks really good, right? I'd take the freaking mirrors off because I have experience riding without me. I don't know. This bike's a lot slower than my bike. Maybe leave the mirrors on this one because you would have some cars coming up behind you on this bike. But I don't have to worry about that on the Duck too much. Unless I slow down. If I ride slow, then I got to check behind me. There's the ZX4 RR right there. Now, not to be confused with the Ninja 400, which is a twin cylinder. Here's a rear shot of it. It's cool, man. I love this thing. I bet it sounds... I think it redlines at 16,000, but my R6 redline at 16. Here's another picture. This is a previous year. I don't really like that color scheme too much. I don't like that black with the gold and the red. I never liked that too much, and it's the wrong lime green. It's not the same lime green. This color scheme right here is much cooler to me. And it's got RAM induction. See, that's how you know. If it has RAM air induction, that's a sign it's a real super sport. If it doesn't have that, then it's not. You know, it's just not. See, like this, I mean, they make it look nice in this picture with, you know, this is a really well done picture in a nice setting, perfect lighting. But I really, this color scheme, this design was never really my favorite. I like the new one better, the one we were just looking at. I like this color scheme better. Because it's more traditional. It's more like the older original Kawasaki's. This right here, it's just got more green on it with a little splash of color here. And I just like that better. It's less busy, you know, it's got less going on. It just looks cooler to me. It's cleaner. It's cleaner than this right here. See, this, I don't know. It's just too much. It's too much going on for my taste. It's just my opinion, folks. If you disagree with me, that's totally cool. Because it's still really cool. I'm not saying it's not cool. It's just I prefer the other one over this. Here's another side shot of it. But is this a good first bike? I think like the off-road dual purpose bike is a better first bike if you've never ridden before. It just is. So anyway, have I lost anybody? Oh, so Murky Boy says, grew up riding dirt bikes, so I have some familiarity to two wheels, not just that much power. I gotcha. That's great. That's great. I didn't mean to go off on a whole direction here that I didn't need to. But for anybody out there who may be here listening, if you have no riding experience, it's much better to start. And he has, Murky Boy's got dirt bike riding experience. I don't know how much. If you own your own dirt bikes, that's one thing. But if a friend just let you ride them a couple of times, that's really not much. That really doesn't count. I mean, it's something, but it's not like where you're like expert on the dirt. That's really what you're looking for. When you start on the dirt, you want to get so much dirt experience that you've mastered riding on the dirt. And if you've mastered riding on the dirt, then you graduate to the street. That's really where the benefit is. So, and that's that, folks. And that's all I have to say about that, for the most part. It's a cool bike. But the ZX6 R, it's also a cool looking bike. See, here it is right here. Looks a little more beefy. Yeah, I guess this one probably looks better than the other one. But, I always felt like this was a little off. How far forward this leaned and how low it was. It's like it's so separated from like up here. I always kind of felt like that about the ZX6. No shade on the ZX6. It's just a little design quirk. Like you can see it in this picture. You can see what I'm talking about. See from the side profile. See how like this nose area is like really pushed down and forward up here. It just seems like it. I don't know. It just seems odd that it's shaped like this. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just something I noticed. This one looks really nice. This color scheme right here is almost like the ZX10 that I just rode. Rob's ZX10. Now this looks really sharp. I like this a lot. That looks really cool. But do you see how like the fairing is kind of like really pushed out forward? Just kind of strikes me as a little interesting. But imagine this isn't here, right? Imagine this is off the bike. And what I'm looking through that to get to this right here, this shape right here is what I'm looking at. You can see the perky race configuration underneath the fairing that the fairing's kind of covering. And that's what I'm looking at, like from here, and down here like this. And you see how the wheels are close together? They're kind of close together, and that makes for really good turning. And you see how it's kind of leaned forward, aggressive stance, high tail, and then that helps it turning as well. That helps it tipping and turning, makes it easy to flick, right? And you can see the angle of the swing arm, how it's kind of up, and that gives it like an anti-squat, under hard acceleration and stuff. So there's a lot of cool features in the design that you can see. Of course, it's got the twin spar box aluminum frame, all aluminum reinforced and braced swing arm, multi-spoke black wheels. It's got the racing style tires on it, with not like the Michelins we talked about. It's got like the normal sweeping curved lines in the tires that make it look really nice. It's a cool bike. I wouldn't mind I really like this one. This one looks really sharp. But look at this by comparison. The 2019 R6 gray. Now, if you look at this, I don't know, just it looks a little different. That ZX6, that one we just looked at, looks nicer than this now, though, I must admit. But I don't know. I just kind of like, I don't know if it looks nicer than this. This is the bike that I had. This is the same bike that I had. This looks really good too. I always like this high tail and the way the lights were up in the front. But that new ZX6 looks equally as good as this does. See, like, look right here. See, that's trick looking. And you can see, look, it's very similar. Like, if you look past the fairing and you look at this, like, the configuration of where the forks are and the way the tank comes and how high the seat is, and just, you can see the race bike underneath the fairing. Just looks really cool. I love this bike. The multi-spoke black wheels and, you know, the fairing with the lights tucked underneath with the daytime running lights and everything, and that slashed, you know, single vertical line tail light was really trick. Yeah, I love that bike. And it never went to the shop, not a single time, for any reason. It was an amazing bike. Look at this black windscreen. Don't do that to your bikes, folks. It looks really bad. It looks bad and it doesn't function properly. You can't see through it. This black windscreen, it's just people, and this one's a higher one. I don't like the higher ones, and I don't like the black. The clears, the factory clear one is the way to go. It just looks nicer. And then you can see through it, of course. You like this clear? See, that looks much better. Those black windscreens are just, you know, they don't look right. Just like this one, right? See, like, that's the proper windscreen to have on it right there. The factory windscreen. It looks so nice by comparison to that big black one that sticks up. It's just, yeah, it looks awful. And even if you hate me for saying that because you have one, I'm really doing you a favor by letting you know. You know what I mean? It's like when your friend has a booger in their nose. That's what it's like. And I see a good friend. Say you're walking around, and you got a booger in your nose, right? And you're like, "Hey man, what's up?" And your friend's like, "Hey, what's going on, man? All right, good to see you. So you ready?" "Yeah, I'm ready." And you're going out like somewhere, like to a restaurant or out somewhere, and you're going to go meet some girls to pick them up or something, right? And then, or walk around the mall or whatever it is that y'all are going to go do, right? And then like scenario one is your friend doesn't tell you that you got a booger in your nose and lets you just walk around because it's an uncomfortable thing. It's kind of uncomfortable to say, "Hey man, I'm just letting you know, you might want to go check, the bathrooms are there, go check," right? "Oh man, so sorry about that. Thanks, man. You saved me." And see, that's one friend, right? And then the other friend is, because it's uncomfortable, they're just like, "All right, yeah, you ready to go? Okay, let's go." And they don't say anything because, not that they're trying to be a dick or anything, but maybe they think if I say that, they'll feel uncomfortable and that makes me feel uncomfortable. You know, it's kind of a uncomfortable thing. Well, if I tell you that the black windscreen on your motorcycle looks kind of like shit, that I'm being the good friend by telling you got a booger on your nose, okay? I'm telling you that you have a booger on your nose. And now, wouldn't you rather have a friend like that? Okay, see my point? There you go. You got a booger on your nose. Jake Martell, what's going on, dude? Bringing the triple goats. I love it. Robert Morrison says, "I am between a Tracer 900 GT and an Africa Twin." Right on, bro. I'm sure you'll pick the right one. Beanzo says, I love my ZX6R. I want one too, man. Keep in mind, any quirks or any variances or anything that I point out, that's just me just thinking out loud. It's all. It doesn't mean I don't like any of the bikes or anything like that. It just means little things I notice, little comparisons and stuff like that. Something that maybe not be, the perfect thing, but overall, does it make the bike bad? No, not at all. The ZX6 is a fantastic machine. And I really like that one that I just was looking at. Let me see if I can find it again. Yes, it's right here. This one right here looks quite amazing. This one. Yeah, that's sharp. But you see, the fairing does look like it's pushed forward a little bit, doesn't it? Like it's leaning way out further out in relation to where where the front of the wheel is. It's like it's almost hanging over the very front of the wheel. Nothing wrong with that, but it's just like the profile look. And then when you sit on it, see, because my buddy Jose had one. I had my R6, and he had his, and we swapped bikes a couple of times, and I rode the ZX6. And I noticed that the fairing looked like it was low and forward compared to the R6, and it's just something I've noticed from the very beginning. But does that make the bike bad? Absolutely not. It's a great bike, and I would love to have one. I wouldn't even. When I was getting rid of the R1, I was thinking about replacing it with another bike, and I was looking at ZX6s. So even though I might critique some of its design or whatever, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't want one by any means. I mean, it can't be that bad if I want it. So. So I'm still the friend that tells you if you got a booger, though. I will still do that. What is that, Linnell? What is that little thing that you posted there? It looks like an amoeba or something. Troy Clark. What's up, dude? Clear screen are better. You can see clearly, says Troy Clark. Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. A light smoke, it's not so bad. But the clear just looks really nice. It looks really nice. Angel Celis says, quick shifter on the 636 is elite. Yeah, from the factory. If it's anything like the ZX10 that I just rode, yeah, for sure. That thing was butter smooth. It was fast too. The quick shifter worked great, and it was fast. That bike was unbelievably smooth. Rob's ZX10 is unbelievably smooth. I really love that about that bike. There was so much I loved about that bike. It's not as fast as the Duck, though. It's not anywhere close to the Duck. It's not. And the R1 that I own wasn't as fast as the Ducati. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows the ZX10 isn't as fast as the Ducati is. So don't blame me. Don't blame me if you like the ZX10, but it's just not. Whenever I was giving it gas and everything, it would pull nicely and good, but it doesn't violently pull like the Duck does. The Duck is violent on its acceleration by comparison. And that's just the way it is, how much, let me look at something here. 2026 Ninja ZX10R HP specs. All right, I've never looked this up, but we're gonna do it right now together. The ZX10 pumps out a certified 190 horsepower at 11,500 RPM, which bumps up to roughly 200 horsepower when the Ram air intake kicks in at high speeds. It puts out 82.5 pound-feet of torque at 11,300 RPM from its 998cc liquid-cooled engine. Weight. Curb weight is 456. The non-ABS, which is the one that Rob has, 456 pounds, 0.4. So the curb weight with the ABS is 460, so it's 4 pounds heavier. So 456 pounds, but he took the factory exhaust off and the catalytic converter, so he probably saved about 10 pounds with that. So we're probably like looking at 446. Just guessing, a savings of 10 pounds is probably about right, right? 10 to 12 pounds, maybe, let's say. So that puts it pretty heavy. So 190 horsepower at 11,500 RPM, up to around 200 with Ram Air. But I don't even know. That seems kind of weird that they would say it like that. I think that's just because it's AI. AI is just reading off of what people have typed in and stuff, and it adds that in there as it's like trying to sound like a human side. But so I don't know what's true on this. Yeah, it says 190. See, if you go to Kawasaki, it says it's 190 horsepower. This is the green version of the ZX10. That looks really sharp too. The black one's really nice, and so is this. I like the way it looks a lot. They redesigned the front. The front doesn't have like those little scoops like they did, because they added these wings in here, and this one looks really nice. I like the black and this one. And look right here, 16,999. Oh, you can't see it right there, 16,999. But Rob got his for 14 and change out. I don't know, and then plus title tax and license after that, if I was to guess. But the specs, power, $190. So it's got forget that 200 horsepower thing. It's got 190 horsepower, but his is tuned with an exhaust, so that might add some horsepower to it. I don't know how much, but it definitely would increase the horsepower over this 190. So let's just say it's probably just shy of 200 horsepower, if I was to guess. And then the Ducati, uh, 2022 Ducati Panigale. You have to specify Panigale, or else it might think that you're talking about the Street Fighter. V4S. Horsepower specs. This 210 horsepower at 12,500 RPM, and 215 for the Euro version. 90.6 pound-feet of torque. Now this is stock, right? But mine isn't stock anymore, so you can add at least 10 horsepower to this, at least. So my bike, at the crank, it's not, neither one of these specs we're looking at are at the wheel. So this is probably, my bike's probably 220 horsepower. That is a shitload more. That's a lot more. That's going to make it violent. And then just the power band, the way that the band signature is different. Let's look at dyno charts. Like, here's some images. That's V4R. Maybe I was hoping we could get some dyno. I wonder if we can get both of the bikes together. Hang on. Let's see if I can get there might be a video or something on YouTube about that. V4S and 2026 ZX10R dyno chart. Don't know. Yeah, I don't see anything here. The 22 Panigale V4S puts down roughly 202 at the rear wheel. Yeah, I mean, after it thinks it's saying 202 at the rear wheel from a claimed 210 crank horsepower with 88 pound-feet of torque, whereas the stock 2026 ZX10R delivers about 176 to 185 at the wheel from a claimed 190 crank horsepower. Do y'all see the difference? It's tremendous. So I just rode both bikes. Both bikes are tuned with exhaust. So it's an equal setup comparison. But the Duck has tremendous more power over the ZX10. The ZX10 weighs like 40 pounds more, and the Duck has like over 20 horsepower more. That's a shitload more power. And you know what else is the difference? If you were to look at, well, let's finish reading this first. It says Ducati V4S, the 22, driven by the 1103 Desmo Sedici Stradale V4 engine. The dyno curve displays massive displacement advantages. It pulls significantly harder across the entire low and mid-range RPM spectrum compared to the inline 4 Kawasaki. Absolutely true. Showing a flatter, broader torque line before screaming to a 210 plus horsepower peak at the tire with minor racing exhaust. That's the Duck. 210 plus horsepower at the tire. So now that my bike is tuned, see, it was 210 at the crank before, so it's like 210 at the tire now, which is a lot. Kawasaki ZX10 Ninja, driven by the 998cc inline 4 standard unmapped dyno run, shows strict Euro 5 sound regulation dips. It runs lean in the mid-range and gets heavily restricted or pig rich at the top end due to factory electronic throttle plate closures. So then tuned and modified. Post-tuned Ducati V4S, adding a full exhaust and an up-map flash, pushes rear wheel figures past 210 to 215 horsepower, though some aggressive custom tunes can experience minor mid-range variations depending upon the map lock. You see, the up map can't touch the Bryn tune. The Bryn tune has more power, so according to this, it would have more. And then the ZX10 after the tune, unlocking the ECU constraints via a stage 1 or stage 2 flash with an aftermarket 3/4 full exhaust and an air filter, transforms the top end curve, liberating the suppressed power to jump from 163 to 172 wheel horsepower stock baselines up to 192 to 205 wheel horsepower on pump race fuel. Even when fully built, the ZX10 curve hits most violent strides past 12,000 RPM, lacking the initial down low grunt and wider square inches under the curve belonging to Ducati's larger displacement V4 architecture. So it doesn't only have more peak horsepower. The dyno chart is fat through the mid-range, so it goes straight up through the mid-range, and then it keeps pulling up higher at the very top, right, at maximum RPM. The ZX10 it kind of has a shallow, it's not fat like the V4 in the mid-range. It's shallow. It has like a dished out curve, and then when the power really starts to go high, when the RPMs really start to go high in the RPM range, then the power increases steeply up to a peak. So it's very shallow, and then it peaks high, but not as high as the peak duck. But the duck has all of this filler area in the middle, in addition to the extra on top. So it's got about 15 to 20 more horsepower on top, but it might have 30 or 40 more horsepower through the mid-range at the same RPM. That's no joke. That's exactly what it is. And when you barely roll the throttle on the duck, you don't even have to open the throttle hard at all. And it can be like at 5,000 RPM, and it's pulling like a rocket. But then as it speeds up and goes 6, 7, 8, 9, it starts to pull even harder, and then the front wheel starts coming off the ground. It's a wild, violent ride. I'm not even kidding. And like I said, I've had the bike for 4 years, and it still rocks me. It still blows me away. It really does. And then it's like 40 pounds lighter. So what is the weight difference? What is the tuned with exhaust weight difference? When comparing real-world curb weights after installing a full aftermarket titanium exhaust system, removing factory emissions hardware, which I've done. I took out the charcoal canister, and I've taken out the exhaust valve servo motor and all that stuff, so I've gotten lighter. The 2022 Duck V4S is roughly 33 to 37 pounds lighter than the 26 Kawasaki Ninja ZX10R. So 33 to 37 pounds lighter, and it has 40 to 50 more horsepower through the mid-range. Let's just say it's even 30 more horsepower, but it's not 30 more horsepower, it's more than that. And then it's 33 to 37 pounds lighter on top of it. And not only that, now keep in mind, it's only a $14,000 or $17,000 bike. The Ducati costs twice as much. And now with a 26 Ducati, it's more than twice as much. It's twice as much plus another $6,000 on top of it. So you're comparing apples and oranges. They're both super bikes, but they're in different categories. And then the ZX10 has cast aluminum 3-spoke wheels on it, which are going to be quite heavy. And that's where a lot of the extra weight comes from. The Duck has forged wheels, which are super freaking light. If you take the wheels off the bike and you take the tires off and you hold the wheels, you're just like, holy shit. Like, they feel like nothing. It's amazing how light the wheels are. The Marchesini forged wheels are so light. That helps increase speed, like acceleration, braking, turning. It helps all of that. Flickability is increased dramatically from having a wheel that weighs half as much as the other wheels, or however much less it is. Pounds and pounds and pounds less. So that's less rotating mass. So you're going to have more directional change quicker, and it takes less time to spin up the wheel. It's so all of that extra power is spinning a lighter wheel as well. It makes the bike accelerate faster because it doesn't parasite, rob the power away from the extra weight of the wheel. And then in addition, you've got a counter rotating motor, which offsets whatever gyroscopic forces that you have left over in the wheels and tires. And that makes it's unbelievably flickable. Now, the ZX10 felt good. It felt really nice and amazingly smooth, but it can't change directions effortlessly in the same way as the Duck does because of these things. It's just a complete design difference at the fundamental level. The fundamental level is completely different in design. So and then there's something more too, in addition. So let's look at that. So how is a V4 motor different than an inline 4 in terms of turning agility? Because this is why what I'm getting at here is why all the MotoGP bikes are all V4s, because there's an inherent benefit to it in terms of the handling. So it says right here, an inline 4 motor makes the bike feel heavier and more resistant to turning, while a V4 motor creates a much more agile, quick steering chassis. While suspension geometry and overall weight play huge roles, the layout and physical dimensions of the engine dictate how a motorcycle tilts and transitions through corners. Crankshaft width, the gyroscopic effect. The rotating crankshaft inside the engine acts as a heavy spinning top. The wider this spinning top is, meaning like an inline 4, you got a wider crank. A 2 cylinders staggered like in a V configuration makes the crank half as wide, roughly, right? Says the wider this spinning top is, the crankshaft, the more it resists changes in direction, gyroscopic inertia. And anytime it's wider and you're trying to make it go like this, imagine a tightrope walker when they're holding that big stick out for balance so that they don't fall. That's the same thing. The wider the crankshaft is, and when it's spinning, it creates a wide gyroscope that makes it more resistant to tilting because it doesn't want to change from its position. It's Newton's law, right? The third law of motion: an object tends to stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. That's physics. That's how that works. The inline 4, the ZX10, the crankshaft must accommodate 4 cylinders sitting side by side. This makes the engine and its rotating mass very wide. When you try to lean the bike over quickly, the wide spinning shaft actively fights your steering input, requiring more physical effort to initiate a turn and longer time. It's not as quick to turn. The V4 engine places cylinders in 2 pairs, 2 in front and 2 in the rear. This allows the crankshaft to be roughly half the width of an inline 4 because the rotating mass is narrower and concentrated closer to the bike's center line. Gyroscopic resistance is drastically reduced, allowing the bike to snap into turns with minimal effort. The same thing I've been saying without ever having looked this up. This is the only time I've ever looked this up. Mass centralization and center of gravity, where the engine's weight sits in the frame, alters how the bike pivots. The inline 4, the engine is wide and tall. This pushes a significant amount of weight outward toward the sides of the motorcycle. It provides excellent mid-corner stability once the bike is leaned over, but it slows down side-to-side transitions like in an S-curve. What was I saying as soon as I rode the bike? I said, when I'm out there on the route, I got it locked in, and I said, unbelievably stable. Just like the R1 with its same engine, right? The inline 4 of the R1, whenever you get it locked into a turn, it doesn't go anywhere. It's locked in. It doesn't move or dance or hobble or give you any trouble at all once you're locked into your turn. And it felt amazing in that situation. It's more stable than the Ducati is once you're locked in going over the bumps in the turn. It was like motionless. It was like on rails. A huge advantage, or a huge cool thing about it, right, was that. And when you're locked in at 160 or 170 miles per hour and you're slicing a turn and that thing is rock solid, that is a very reassuring feel that just fills you with confidence. And rightly so, because the bike's holding its line beautifully. That's an amazing characteristic that comes from the inline 4. But in traffic dodging, like where you're going around cars, or when I'm lane splitting and the car changes lanes in front of me and I can just go like this around, that's where the Ducati shines. Or like on a S turn or a chicane on a racetrack, or like out on the twisty roads when it goes from one side to the other, like in a real S turn twisty road, the Ducati's going to outperform it. But on those high speed sweepers where you got some bumps, the ZX10 feels more stable than the Ducati does because of the motor configuration, right? It's vastly different feel. You can do it. I mean, I'm going faster on the duck in the turns, but it's moving around on me, right? And I always say that. But the flickability of the duck, like it changes your abilities to drive up and how close you can get to things and still have time to move if you have to. And when somebody gets next to me when we're out riding and I say, I just adapt to them. And if you watch the videos, you can see that I'm going like this, and it's lightning fast because of the way the bike is. The way it's built is designed for that. And these are the differences. And there's more. It says the V shape allows the heavy mechanical components to be packed tight and low in the center of the frame. This tight mass centralization reduces the bike's moment of inertia, meaning it takes less force to pitch the bike over into a steep lean angle. Absolutely true. I can say this because I own this bike and then I've ridden the other bikes. So I can tell you firsthand that these things are absolutely 100% true. And if you ever are able to experience this, it'll change you as a person. It's like having a revelation, right? It's like having like something happen to you, like an epiphany or some kind of a notable experience that you have. And once you experience something that can move like that, then you've experienced something that will stick with you. I mean, you'll always remember that, and you'll always like look for that after you have it. And says the physical footprint of the engine directly shapes the frame built around it too. And with the V4, there is no frame really. The subframe, the tail just bolts to the engine. The swing arm bolts to the engine. There is no frame. There's no twin spar frame. And that front frame section that holds where the triple clamps are, the steering head bolts separately to the engine. Those things don't mate really too much. It's all bolted to the motor. The inline four, the frame spars must wrap around the outside of a wide engine block. This forces the fuel tank and the knee grip areas to be wider, forcing the rider's legs further apart and altering how effectively you can use your lower body to leverage the bike into a turn. The V4, because the engine is narrow, the frame can be incredibly slim between the rider's knees. This allows you to tuck in tighter, move your body weight across the seat faster, and apply more effective leverage to the foot pegs and tank when steering. And then the summary, and then we'll move on from this. Says in inline four wants to stay upright and stable, requiring more upper body muscle to turn, but rewards you with a rock solid planted feel once you're in the corner. 100% true. That is 100% true. And you heard me say it in the review video. A V4 naturally wants to fall into the corners effortlessly, making it feel like a much smaller, more nimble machine than its actual weight suggests. 100% true. There you go. So this is very accurate. So far, everything that this thing has said has been pretty spot on from my own experiences between the two bikes. Sidewalk Star says inline 4 makes for a more practical engine than that V4 in reliability and maintenance. That extra 10% from a V4 is not going to matter much to a street rider. Well, I'm a street rider, Sidewalk Star. I get what you're saying, but if you are riding at peak level, and if you're on the street or the track, you know, because look, most, like, to your point, which I agree with, most street riders are not going to be riding like they're on a racetrack on the street. That's true. And most street riders probably aren't going to duck and dodge around the cars in the same way that I do, right? There are quite a few people that do that. I'm just saying, generally speaking, most people that have these bikes probably aren't doing that to that level, what I'm doing. Some of the people I ride with can do it just fine and just as good or better or whatever. But I would agree with you in general terms. But I might be an exception, and some of the other people like me would be the exception to the rule, right? So generally speaking, I agree with you, but there are people that do ride on the street that would be able to detect the difference in these two bikes right away, just like I did. But immediately whenever I hit the first turn and it locked in and it was not moving or dancing at all or shimmying or whatever, oscillating, it didn't do any of that. And I loved that immediately about it. But whenever I was trying to just change lanes to go around cars and stuff like that, it took a lot more time and effort to do it, which means I had to alter my riding style to match what the bike was capable of doing, which was not as quick to and snappy to turn, which it absolutely isn't. It cannot be the same because physics won't allow it. Now, there are things that you can do to help it, and one of the things that I immediately suggested was putting a taller rear tire on it. Instead of the 190/55, which is a very small and thin, like low profile tire, if he was to put a 255 on it, that would raise the back end a little bit, and it would create a more of a sharp apex on the profile of the tire, which there makes it more like it's on a sharper ball, right? And makes it easier to turn. And raising the back and then putting more of a curve on the tire in the rear allows it to pivot from side to side better. That's why I suggested that. With the larger tire cause a little bit of loss in acceleration quickness? Yes. And so what you would do to make up for that taller tire is go up one tooth on the rear sprocket. So you would alter your gearing, because the tire would then be like going down a tooth, or maybe even two, depending upon how much different the tire circumference is, or the diameter. So you would just change the sprocket to add one more tooth to it. And if you kept this, the bike's so new that he could put a new sprocket. If he wanted to do, I'm just saying he's not going to do it, but if he wanted to, at this stage in the game with the chain still new, he could just order the new sprocket, which would have an additional tooth. Say it's a 44, you just go to a 45, and then you get the 255 tire on it. Now you still have the same acceleration, but now you have the extra handling of the geometry change in the tire, and then how it changes how the bike sits. Now, something else you can do is make sure that your preload is set properly. He's heavier than I am. I weigh about 210, fully loaded in gear. He weighs 250 or so, 240 or 250. So he's considerably heavier than I am. So I would think that bike does not come preload adjusted for that weight, for that size. So I turned one, just because I wanted more flickability out of the bike, I added one rotation of preload to the rear for me. He said I could change it. And that's what I did. But it might need more turns for him. But he doesn't ride like I do either, though. You know, he goes out to the country and he doesn't push hard or anything. You know, he's got a different, set of parameters that he takes into account whenever he rides. He can't crash. Because if he crashes, it's going to be really bad, because he won't be able to go to work, and it'll mess up. Like most people, if you crash and you can't go to work, it's going to put a serious hurting on you, right? For your finances and getting your bills paid and everything. It's a huge mess, because you won't be able to produce income, probably, right? And you might even lose your job, if you can't go to work for 6 months or whatever. So he takes that into account. He's a very disciplined, wise, conscientious rider. And he doesn't need to push really hard to get out of it what he wants to get out of it. He's just out to have a good time. And he loves the bikes, and he is an absolute true rider, and he's a good rider. He's a very thoughtful rider. And that's why, these changes may not even be anything he would be interested in doing, because just his riding style doesn't really require that. But I'm saying, if he wanted to get more performance out of it, then this is where I would start. If it was my bike, I'd put a bigger tire on it. I'd go up a tooth in the rear to gain back the acceleration ability. Get my suspension dialed perfectly for me with preload. The rebound and compression felt really good to me. I don't think that needed to be changed at all for my weight. Now, his extra 40 pounds over me or whatever he weighs more than I do might put him in a different range. He might need to go a couple of clicks in addition, like on the rear or something. I don't know. He would have to decide what he wants to do with that, depending upon how it feels for him whenever he rides it. The bike overall sits lower too. It sits lower, and then when he sits on it, the sag is going to be more, which changes the geometry. When the back goes down, it lightens the steering rake, right? Instead of being so steep, when the back goes down, it relaxes it. Imagine like a cruiser with a long fork. And then a cruiser doesn't turn very well, but it holds its line. Going in a straight line, you don't even have to think about it, because it's so stable it doesn't wander or anything because of that long fork, right? But sport bikes are way up like this. And the further up like this, the easier it is for that front wheel to pivot. And instability can be an issue, and that's why we run steering dampers, to make up for that geometry. But whenever you sit on the bike and the back goes down, you're going to lose the ability to turn. It's going to be more stable probably, but easier to go in a straight line. But when it comes to flicking it, that That can be a diminishing effect, an effect that diminishes its ability to tip in. Now, he didn't seem like he was having any problem with it at all whenever he was riding it, but he wasn't pushing hard or anything. And then out there in the country, you know, there isn't really like any bumps or anything in the turns out there. Not too much. It's all pretty smooth because it's like asphalt. It's not concrete. Concrete gets kind of choppy, you know, because when they pour it, they don't. The way it pours is different than an asphalt. Like an asphalt has like a machine or something, and it just kind of lays it and heats it, and then you've got like this spread. It's like a spread, a road that's spread kind of. But concrete is done in blocks, and each one of those blocks are poured at a separate time than the other one, and it's like a bunch of separate pieces that are all put together. And then the people that do it, they just have those like tools, you know, those spreaders that try to hopefully make it flat, but there's still little variances in it. And then on top of it, while it's still wet, then they put those lines in it too, for whatever reason. And it gets rough, you know, it gets really rough. But it grips really good, you know, so you're bouncing all over the place, but you don't have to worry about it sliding out on you. That's why we're able to go so fast in the turns. Now, if those were asphalt turns, I don't know. When I was riding with Infamous a couple of weeks ago, I was diving into turns like, according to the speedometer, it was past triple dashes. So triple dashes 185, but I was beyond triple dashes. So, but I don't know what the actual speed is. But of course, according to the speedometer, it went to triple dashes on asphalt whenever I was trying to catch up to them. And I was able to catch up to them because I was deep into triple dashes diving into turns on asphalt. Like a madman, like an absolute madman. And my tires were not new either. My tires were pretty much close to the wear bars. Front and rear. Front and rear were both as equally as the front was wore down than the rear was at that time. I don't have those tires on there anymore. I have newer tires now. So whenever you have newer tires, that extra bit of tread is a little bit more supple, and it conforms to the road better. When the tread starts to wear down and get closer to the wear bars, the tire gets actually harder. The tire becomes harder and less compliant. It's less supple, so it doesn't dig into the imperfections of the road. It doesn't bite into the road as well. So on a worn tire, you can start to slip out a little bit, and I experienced some of that whenever we were diving into that turn. I was going over the bumps, and the tires were all flexing and everything, and my suspension wasn't set up exactly as good as it is right now on that ride just 2 weeks ago. Just yesterday, I got the measuring tape out, and got my sag right, just perfect in the sweet spot on the rear. And and then I set my compression and rebound perfectly. And man, the bike, the way it's handling right now is just the best it's ever been. I say that regularly because every change I make just makes it better, and it is freaking dialed right now. I don't think it can get any better than it is right now, but it feels really good. I'm running it in fixed mode, not dynamic. So the electronic suspension, I don't have it in electronic suspension mode. I have it just in fixed mode, because the dynamic, for the type of high-speed riding I'm doing, it can't keep up with it. So it starts to make changes and stuff. Like, you can be going down the route, and in one section it might have more bumps or less bumps, and then it adjusts to that as you're going through it, and then you go down to the other turn and it's different than that turn, and then it's trying to make corrections as you're flying through the bumps, which is what it's supposed to do. But that it's the last thing you need. It's the last thing you need, with it changing mid-corner going over bumps. So it's much more predictable if you have it in fixed mode. That's why I was saying last night, the best bike for the money would be the base model V4 because it doesn't have the electronic suspension. And if you're really a spirited rider, similar to how I am, you don't need the electronic suspension. It's nice to have it because whenever I'm not running the routes, I can switch it into dynamic mode and just run up and down the highways, and it's great. The only time you don't want it is when you're going down the high speed route with bumps on it. It's not able to keep up with that speed. It can't correct itself fast enough. So you turn it off for that route and then you turn it back on for everything else and it's fine. Or if you're running the track, you could use dynamic. It's fine because the track's smooth. It doesn't have to change its setup, on the fly like that. Troy Clark says concrete chop you up fast, especially if you don't have it on the right gear. Yeah, I know. Ask my buddy Tank. He went down on the concrete and he got effed up bad. He's still in the hospital. Oh, Linnell's leaving. Says good night, all. God bless. I hope I didn't bore you to death, Linnell, with all of this technical stuff. I probably bored all of you. Unified relation. What's going on, man? It's always nice to see new names in here. Angel Cell says, I haven't been here a while. LOL. I'm not caught up with the subject. I got you. Oh, and Murky Boy says, how's Tank doing? I hope he's making speedy recovery. Yeah, he's doing okay. He's got surgeries and stuff. They had to rebuild his hands, and he's got a rod in his leg that goes down to his ankle now, and he may never walk the same again. He might have a limp forever now because of it. Because his ankle and all that was shattered or some shit. Because he had broken it before in another crash. And then this is a revisit, actually. A revisit to the same injury. So his shin broke just below the knee. And then it broke down by his ankle in two places. So that bone in the middle, his, whatever you call that, his bone in the middle, his shin bone in the middle was just floating freely because it was separated from the foot and it was separated from the knee. So, not good. It had to hurt. So anyway, they opened up his leg and then they put a rod inside there. And then he's got bolts sticking out of it, to lock it in with some kind of a brace or some shit. Now that part will come out, but I think the rod's going to stay in there permanently, I guess. I mean, I don't know. And I said, so are you the way he described it was the rod goes down to his ankle and then it becomes fused or whatever. And there's no hinge there. There's no ball joint there, So he might and I said, so you're going to walk with a limp the rest of your life? And he goes, yeah, limp like a pimp. He was like joking about it. I'm like, okay. I got sad for him a little bit, because I was thinking, man, you never walk the same again for the rest of your life. That's pretty rough. I mean, it could be worse. I mean, things could be worse, but it's kind of a big deal. If you can't articulate your foot, like your leg is here and you can't articulate your foot, if your leg is here and then your foot's here, then it's locked in, and it's just like, who knows? I don't know how that's going to be. So that's how he's doing right now. So. Sidewalk Star says, scope the vid I linked in Discord. You're going on TikTok now. Let's see. Oh, hang on a second. I gotta fix this. One sec, and we'll pull it up. I need display capture. Go. Okay, got it. All right. So, oh yeah, that's on TikTok. That's interesting graphics you put on there. So that's kind of like what your thought process is as you're coming up on everything. Yeah, I like that. That's cool. Excuse me, pardon me. And this one, it says it blocks some features. Discord, I guess. Party time. Oh, it's the same video. Yeah, that's kind of like, similar to like you got to watch everything as you're going through there. Yep. There you go. Cool, bro. I like that. Very cool, my man. Well, man, we are at 2 hours and 11 minutes. Where did the time go? Jeez. Unify Relations says, do you enjoy riding 600s? Absolutely. I love 600s. 600s are great. I had an R6 that I absolutely loved. My R6 was so fun. It sounded amazing. It performed good. It cruised at 155 miles per hour all day long. No problem. It was great. Loved it. Troy says was watching your dashboard today to see that 170. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's pretty common, man. But I was hitting 172. I hit 172 in the turn on the ZX10 on my first real ride out on it. Multiple times. I hit 170 in at least 3 turns out there. The other ones were like 155 and stuff like that. Just on a first ride, basically. That's how stable the bike was. It really felt good. That was what we were talking about a second ago. Like the stability factor of it. It's so stable. It's smooth and stable. It just doesn't accelerate as fast as the Duck, and it doesn't flick as fast as the Duck. The mid-range power, it doesn't have mid-range power like the Ducati does. But is there anything wrong with that bike? Absolutely not. Would I love to own one? Absolutely, I would. It's a great bike. And for the price, you can't beat it. It's under $20,000. It's a super bike with it looks great with a lot of performance that he paid 14 and some change for. But the list price was like 17,000, right, for the non-ABS. That's cheap as hell, really. Most people and some people like from back in the day are like, holy shit, man, it's 17,000 for that bike. That's crazy. That's bananas, But no, that by today's standards, that's really, really, really cheap, and you get so much for that price. So much performance, cool looks, amazing sound, stability in the turn. It's still flickable. It comes with a steering damper, a manual Öhlins, the top of the line Öhlins manual steering damper. It's got Brembo brakes on it. It's got Showa forks, gas charged Showa forks. And a fully adjustable front and rear suspension. It's cool. It's really, really cool. It's got the little winglets on the front now, redesigned front end. The dash is nice. It was a little bit hard for me to read, but it's not a deal breaker by any means. It was hard for me to see what RPM I was at. I couldn't see the number on the RPM, and that's something I like to know. On the Ducati, I can see it easier. I know exactly where I'm at on the Duck. Maybe just because I've owned it longer. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But Linnell says closest thing I could find to a booger goat. Oh, that little amoeba thing. Okay. Man, I was really scrolling up far there on that one. Merlin of Troy. What's up, dude? Troy says the duck was swimming in that rain calmly. Yeah, yeah, and the ZX10 performed good in the rain too. It's kind of more of the rider. If you're a rider that has a lot of rain experience, you're going to be fine. Usually, most hopefully, hopefully you'll be fine in the rain. All right. Well, I'm going to get going, folks. We're at 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I'm done for tonight. I hope you guys had a good time. I hope I didn't bore you too much with all the technical stuff. I just come on here, and we were going to talk about the codes on the duck and all that stuff, but another time. We've done enough technical stuff, and we've done a couple of streams now where we've compared the two bikes, but that's because it's fresh, and the video just released today was of both bikes and so forth. So we'll start talking about other stuff too. I have a Ducati, and so that's my reference that's my baseline reference that I'm going. If I ride anything else, I'm always going to compare it to that because that's my bike, and that's my understanding of what is possible on a motorcycle for me, because that's the one that I own, and it's perfectly set up for me and for my riding style. And then if I ride anything else, not because I'm shading the other bike by any means, it's a natural thing to size them up and compare them and see where they're at and what the capabilities of each one are in relation to the other, and that way you have a full understanding of what the bike's capable of doing and what its strong points are, compared to the other bike's strong points. But did it have any weak points? Even though it doesn't have a lot of power through the mid-range, you just have to rev it out and keep it in the right gear. That you just have to keep it in the right gear. Once you do that, it's not going to be a problem. I didn't have a whole lot of time with the bike, but if I was to own that bike and transition completely to the ZX10 and not even have the Ducati, my riding style would change to adapt to the needs of that bike to make it perform the way I want it to. It's no matter what, it's not going to be as fast as the Ducati, but it would be faster than what I rode it. I would become faster in the turns than I already was, and I would be able to flick the bike quicker because of modifications that I would do to it that we discussed. And then through because I didn't even really have any real time to even really customize the setup for me. So the bike's got a lot more potential in it than whatever it was whenever I rode it because of these things. And then I would just become more familiar with what the bike requires from me in order to really make it sing. And I'm also carrying over my riding personality onto that bike, my riding personality that's based off the Ducati, and what the Ducati requires is inputs from me, the rider, and I'm carrying that characteristic over onto that bike, and that's why I was doing roll-ons in sixth gear and going, oh shit, but I was already in it, so it would have been it would have been awkward to downshift. So instead you just roll it on and then you just ride it out until it picks back up. See, if I was more familiar with that bike or riding that bike solely, then I would have automatically, through instinct, just downshifted before I rolled on the throttle. But see, with the Ducati, I don't have to downshift to roll on the throttle. I just roll it on. I don't even have to downshift. So it's easier to ride in that way too. But if you only ride that bike and it requires a downshift whenever, out of six to pick up the speed, then you would just become adapted to it to just do that instinctively. So anyway, the bike has more in it than what I got out of it, but I didn't have any issue with it necessarily. All right, I'm going to get out of here, folks. I love you all. Thank you so much. And we've got one more live stream, and it'll be the end of the week. Then it's the weekend, and then so you better be here tomorrow night. All right.